Hi, guys. Welcome to the Soul on Fire show. I am so excited for today's show because we are going to blow your mind with my friend Lauren, who is coming on here and talking about the somatic nervous system and understanding healing at the depths of your body at the greatest level. I am just going to bring her on right away because I know that you guys want to sit and learn this information from her. She's amazing. She's going to blow your mind. Thank you guys for being here on the live. Thank you so much for being on the replay. Today is Wednesday, so we are teaching on Wednesday, and I want to tell you about my friend Lauren, who we just met each other, but I know that she is such an amazing soul and has so much to bring to you guys. So I'm just going to read her bio to you, and then you guys can figure it out from there. So Lauren Zoeller is a seven-figure entrepreneur, host of the Aligned Love podcast, speaker, and author. As a founder of the Aligned Love Experience, Lauren is an expert practitioner in repairing generational healing somatic experiences. Through her work, she has created priority voice activation method that has been used to help thousands of men and women from their past trauma to take sales ownership of their future. She's certified in dating relationship coach, and insight has been featured on the Drew Barrymore Show, the New York Post, Business Inside Leader, Medium, NBC News, Gold podcast, and Shape magazine. Oh, wow. That's amazing. I didn't even know that. So Lauren is featured as a contributor as Ask Beauty, a unique magazine and membership platform that refines beauty by helping women choose what beauty means to them inside and out. Oh my gosh, I love that so much. I'm excited to bring her on. I'm going to keep reading. She often speaks on topics as embodiment, attachment theory, somatic experience, and leadership. Her business endeavors are dedicated to helping build schools for unprivileged children in Honduras with the Boundless Foundation, of philanthropic organization whose mission is to end generational cycles of scarcity and poverty. Oh my gosh. Everything about that I love. Lauren, hi. Welcome.
Oh my goodness, I'm so excited to be here. Every time I hear that bio, I'm like, oh, that's me.
That's a pretty impressive bio. I was reading it and I was like, wow. That's amazing. So tell us, our audience, about exactly what you guys are doing and what you do, because it is so incredible. Now, I know you work deeply in trauma and you work with the body specifically. So tell us what the somatic experience is for those people that don't know on this channel.
Yeah. So somatic experiencing is connecting to your body and your nervous system to understand the way that trauma has been trapped in the system. So when we're thinking about the definition of trauma, and I love the somatic definition of trauma, it is the stuck psychosomatic response to any event that was too fast, too much, or too soon for your body to properly regulate. So in layman terms, you experience something, it gets stuck in your system because you don't have time to go through the activation, deactivation cycle. And then next thing you know, you come up to an instance that's very similar to the event that you experienced, and your body goes into that safety state again, and you're frozen, or you have anxiety, or you feel like you want to run away, right? So somatic experiencing is learning to renegotiate that trauma so that you can find more access to peace and safety.
I absolutely love that. And so let's talk about the trauma and the wounded child, and coming from the space of empowerment and understanding and learning from the wounded child, but not staying there, and moving into a space that is empowerment and using your pain to bring out your purpose out to the world. I know both you and I have done that. And that's a very important thing to understand, is that you don't have to stay in the pain, but thoughts become this. On the show, we talk the quantum. So thoughts become beliefs, and beliefs become patterns, and patterns become your reality, right? Let's talk about the reality of relationships, because I know that you're a relationship coach. And so the patterns of relationships when the trauma is stuck in your body, when it's either the wounded masculine or the wounded feminine that you're dealing with in the energetic realms.
For sure. So I'll actually give an example of how this shows up. And this is something that we see often with men and women that make their way into my practice, and men, this doesn't go for just women, is they experience relationships where one, either they run away or the person that they're seeing decides to ghost, right? They just automatically disappear. Okay. And if I see someone that comes into my practice that tends to have this pattern as they're dating or as they're in relationship, I start to get curious about the way that they were taught to give and receive love from a primary caregiver as a child. And what I usually see when we start to go back and we start to look at the patterns of the way that they were raised is we often see that one of the primary caregivers was not holding big emotions as sacred for that person. They didn't know how to be with big emotions. Oftentimes they were told, don't cry, or you're going to be okay, or emotions felt really scary for the parent. So they just pretended that they weren't there and exited the room or exited the situation. And when we look at that pattern, we can see, oh my gosh, I am recreating that same pattern in my adult relationships. I run away when emotions get too big, which also means that I attract other people who ghost and or run away when emotions get too big. They can't be with big emotions. So if we look at that from a nervous system level, at a very young age, your poor little body, your tiny little nervous system, learned to go into flight, which is a nervous system safety response when big emotions were present. That is a dysregulated response.
Wow.
To go back to what you were speaking about, in that we don't want to get stuck in our wounded child. What somatic experiencing does is it allows you to renegotiate that flight response and find safety when emotions are present so that you can actually have healthy relationships as an adult. You can break that dysregulated pattern because it's generational, right? We pick it up from our parents. They can't sit with the big emotions. So there's always a tie, but we're not going there to stay there. We're going there to heal it so that we can move forward.
I absolutely love that. And so you know that I'm a quantum energy turner and I work with meditation and I work with the brain and the body and the mind-body connection and the soul. So let's talk about forms of calming the nervous system, right? From going from fight or flight into, the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system, and when it is regulated and how it looks, and what that looks like in your body when you're not regulated and when you are, and how meditation and food and spirituality and energetics can actually change that, because it really is all four. It's the mental body, the physical body, the emotional body, and the energetic body, but it's centered in the body, right?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So when we're talking about activation, let's start with activation. What activation actually looks like in the body. So for anyone that doesn't understand or hasn't done work around what does a dysregulated nervous system response look like, there are four main survival responses when we go into a triggered state or when we go into a dysregulated state. There is fight and flight, which are sympathetic activated states. And there is freeze and fawn, which are parasympathetic activated states. Now, when someone is in fight or flight, they're going to show signs of just like it sounds, right? Their heart rate might be elevated. They may feel like they want to exit the situation. I will often, when I'm working with clients, I'll always ask them, talk to me about what your heels are doing right now. What are your feet doing? And 10 times out of 10, their heels are lifted, right? Because they're getting ready to run. They want to run to keep themselves safe. So the body will give you all of the signals that you need. If someone's in fight, chances are their hands will start to clench, right? Like they're going to actually defend themselves, or they'll feel heat start to rise. The blood will rush to their extremities. So that's how we know when the body will give us those answers, is in fight or flight. Now, when they're in freeze or fawn, and we'll talk about fawn in just a moment because it's not normally spoken about, they both present pretty similarly. When you're frozen, you're frozen. You can't access emotion. It's very difficult to access emotion. Usually eyes get really big, doe-eyed, because someone's actually frozen. You can actually look at their body and say, oh, wow, you're frozen. You're not moving, right? Fawn presents the same way, except for that fawn usually has an added element of people pleasing. either getting really boisterous and like the shoulders get really big, or shrinking. You'll actually see someone shrink into themselves because they're not operating from truth. They're actually speaking to befriend someone so they don't get hurt.
I love that.
All four of these activated states have different body sensations and emotions associated with them. So when we learn the language of the nervous system, which only speaks in sensation and emotion, we can start to become informed about whether or not we're in a trauma response, because we can feel these. Now, to go to the other end of the spectrum, when you are in a deactivated state, when you're in what we call ventral vagal connection, which is just another fancy term for peace and safety, you feel at peace. You can actually orient to your space without feeling like you're in threat. And what I mean by orient is your eyes can land on things and you can name them. You may feel a deep, settled feeling in your low belly. Your feet are probably grounded. Your breath is steady. It's not rapid. It's not shallow. And you feel this sense of ease, like, I can operate and I don't feel paralyzed, or I don't feel like I want to run. So just noticing those two different states, or those three different states, parasympathetic, sympathetic, and ventral vagal, can change so much. But so much of what we do on a day-to-day basis, as you said, eating properly, exercise, meditation, taking care of ourselves, gives us more access to ventral vagal. So we expand that muscle. And the more access we have to ventral vagal, the more access we have to resourcing what it feels like to be there, the easier it is to start to deactivate some of these activated responses. The body gets used to it.
I love that. So I'm a science. I'm a science person, and my science brain is like, I'm leaning in so much because I'm super excited. I love the science of the body and the brain. Let's talk about when people are actually in fight or flight or freeze or fawn, and what are some things to one, you just said how you can notice that, but what are some things to do when you're in that situation? One, preventative is what we just talked about, but two, when you're actually in that situation and it's happening, and someone's leaving, or they're in a relationship, someone's leaving, or they're ghosting, or you're anxious, and I know it's the anxious, avoidant, and secure, right, in the relationship. And so what I've learned really is just to lean back, and because it's active. When you get into someone that is in an activated state, it's intense, right? It's a very, very intense. So let's talk about that from a relationship, not even just intimacy, but like it could be relationship with your kids, relationship with anything. I mean, this information is so much gold, because you really can truly navigate when somebody else's emotions are in an activated state, right?
For sure. And this is a great question. And I really will say it comes down to two steps. And I say really healing, if we break it all down, it comes down to two steps, and two steps only. The first step is awareness. The second step is choice. When you're aware, you can choose differently. So when you're starting to really understand the language of the nervous system and understanding your triggers, and you're starting to have that conversation, the first thing is just being aware that you're activated. So if you're having a disconnect with a significant other, or if you're feeling triggered in a specific scenario throughout the day, and I'll often hear my clients say this, the first sign that I know that they're on the right path is they say, I feel like I had this out of body experience. I recognized my trigger. I couldn't do anything about it because I was still on autopilot, but like I could recognize that it was happening. That's the first step, is becoming aware. And maybe you're just aware for a little while, allowing yourself grace to just be in the trigger because it's been your go-to for a long time. The second step, once you're aware that it's happening, is to start to activate choice, which is, I'm activated right now, using your voice to say, I need to step away for a moment and I need to process what's coming up for me, because I feel activated right now. I don't feel like I'm really calm in my body. And then remove yourself from the thing that is triggering you and allow yourself to tap into your tool belt. start some deep breathing, right? If you, in somatic work, we do what's called bilateral stimulation, which is taking the opposite hand, the opposite side of the body, regrounding yourself so your nervous system can settle back into ventral vagal. And what you're doing by doing that is you're actually interrupting the activation stuck cycle, and you're giving that safety response time to deactivate. And the next thing you know, you can think clearly, but probably the next time you come up next to that trigger, it won't be as hard as it was the time before, but you're interrupting it, right? You're interrupting the activation, the stuck activation response, and you're allowing it to deactivate in the body.
I love that. Breaking state is such an important thing, I believe, without question. When someone's in that mental stimulus or physical stimulus and breaking the state, even just getting a glass of water, your brain can't do two things at the same time, right? So it's amazing to understand that. What is a great thing to notice when your partner is in that state and you're not, but your partner is?
So if you can witness that they are in some sort of activated state, the best thing to do is to allow yourself to invite them into safety, to see them in it, and to not judge them for being in it, because you can see that it is a response to something that happened. Now, this doesn't mean, what I don't want this to get mixed up with is that if abuse is involved and you are in a line of fire, you must remove yourself. But if you're having if there's some sort of disagreement happening and you see that, honoring it for what it is, using your voice to be with them, and also create a safe space for them. Say to them, hey, beautiful, you're held here. I'm here for you. Let it out. Right? Be with them in it, because you then create safety. The reason that they're responding that way is because they don't feel safe. We have to remember that activation, it's a survival response. We don't feel safe. So when someone can say, hey, you're safe here, it allows someone to bring the armor down. Like, oh, wow, this isn't a threat. Totally different approach to it.
That actually just, I felt that my heart opened and I got tears and chills from that. That's so beautiful. And we are going to take a short break and then talk about the vibration of it. And so that's moving to the vibration of love, right? And so when you're moving from fear all the way up to love, that's moving up the vibrational emotional scale. I absolutely love this. I could talk to you for hours, Lauren. Thank you for being here. We're going to take a quick break, guys. Stay tuned, because we have more of Lauren coming. We're going to go deep into the energetic fields and what that looks like in your body and your nervous system, and how actually you can change that and transmute the energy into something to be in a healthy situation. We will be right back, guys. Stay tuned. Hey guys, welcome back. Thank you so much for being here on the Soul on Fire show. Today, I am super excited because I am with my friend Lauren Zoeller, and she is a somatic healer, and she works with trauma within the body and somatic system. And I think I'm saying that correctly, right? I should after 14 years of psychology. So hopefully I'm saying that correctly. But let's talk about energy now, and let's talk about how vibrationally, when you're attracting at a lower vibration because it's stored in your nervous system, and how that looks as the patterns in your life that keep showing up. And again, we talked about that a little bit in the beginning of the show, but as for a vibration, like, as we were saying, thoughts become patterns, patterns become beliefs, and beliefs become your reality. And so your belief is what you're attracting into you. And so I know this from what I do and what you do, what your beliefs are stored in your nervous system and stored in your body, and so are your emotions. And so how are you vibrating, and how are you like a frequency of attracting, say, a toxic relationship or the same exact person in a different body, right? So let's talk about that and how physically, biochemically, you are actually vibrating at that vibration.
Love it. So I'm going to go back actually to the example that I gave earlier about the emotionally unavailable woman or man who keeps attracting in the partners where they either run away or the partner runs away and goes. If we look at that, and if that person hasn't done a lot of the nervous system work to be able to heal that dysregulated response, and when we're talking about in regards to the dysregulated response is emotions are scary and unsafe, so I'm going to run away. And if we think about the emotions associated with emotions are scary and unsafe, there's a lot of fear there. Probably some shame, some blame, some anger. If we really were to dig into it, there's probably some sadness. And as we know, those are all lower vibrational frequency emotions. They're all based in fear. So if this person has not done the work to regulate that and find safety within their system to where, hey, you know what? I can sit with big emotions and I'm okay. I can still love myself. I still know that I'm worthy. I can still have compassion for what's showing up. I can still be kind to this person that's showing me emotion. If we don't do the work to shift that, then we are vibrating in that frequency. And what we know is like attracts like. We're vibrating in the frequency of fear. And so we become a mirror or a conduit for the people who are also vibrating in that same space. So this is why nervous system work is so important when it comes to manifestation. Because if you do the work to heal your nervous system so that you can feel into love more frequently and feel safe there, right? You're going to be a conduit for someone who is awakened and has also done that work to where their main frequency is love.
Well, I will tell you this, that it's such a different, and I think you and I, before the show, we were talking about the divine masculine and the divine feminine and embodying that. And I don't know that ever in my life, and you know, I've been doing this for 20 years and still have work. This is the pain point in my life is relationships, right? I've only been in 4 relationships in my life. And with that being said, but there have been it's been beautiful men and beautiful love, but the highest frequency of love is divine union. And so let's talk about when you think that you're in love and you think that it's the attraction and the biochemical and it's the trauma bonding, but then the actual, you know, the divinity of the love behind it and moving through forgiveness and moving through the higher vibrations into a relationship that is emanating, you know, God, source, the universe, as opposed to in your trauma and attracting the trauma.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So when you're truly in a space of divinity and you have done the work to come home to yourself and understand and know that when you do attract into that space and here's the thing, when you're in a space of true divinity, you know that your divine king, you know, and you trust that your divine king is on his way to you. You get to this space. Yeah. You get to this space like, you know what? I know, but I love myself so much. And I know that I am so worthy of, and I know how I can feel divine within me, that there's almost this release of when he's going to arrive.
I love
right?
that.
Because you know, energetically, he has made himself known to you. And because you have done this work to vibrate into love, and you've done this work to vibrate into trust, there's almost this release of when he's going to manifest in physical form. You can feel him energetically.
Yeah.
That's what I think is the difference between being in a trauma bond, because needing to hold on to and control when he's going to arrive or when she's going to show up, and getting on all the dating apps and hiring all the matchmakers and being in this very controlled masculine state of control, right? Toxic masculine, of controlling it and gripping it. That's where you vibrate and you meet someone who's also in that space. But when you know, and you vibrated into divinity and you understand that, there's just this knowing that he or she is on their way to you. It's a totally different frequency, and it's based in love.
I absolutely love it. Guys, there's so many gold nuggets in what she just said, and it so goes aligned with everybody that watches this show. So let's continue along the frequency path, because that's my vibe, right? That's my jam. We're working there. So let's describe what trauma bonding actually looks like in a relationship when people are trauma bonding, and how it feels like this magnetic attraction. And there's so many toxic relationships out there that are like the narcissist or the empath or whatever it may be, because it's this trauma bond and they're trauma bonding. But what they don't realize is that they're actually connecting via, the attraction is very, very different than connection, right?
Yes. So one of my favorite sayings that I say all the time is that children raised in chaos are triggered by peace and safety. And I think that so beautifully sums up trauma bonding, because if for a lot of the women that we see in my practice, a lot of them are in this cycle of holding on to men who pull away and come back and pull away and come back. They're addicted to the chaos because the chaos feels safe. There's almost this hit of adrenaline when it happens. And so what happens in trauma bonding is that you actually get addicted to the bond of the chaos.
Wow.
The chaos. I know. But because somewhere, probably in your childhood or from some sort of experience that you've had in the past, that's where you learn to feel safe. You co-regulated with your primary caregiver's nervous system. And if there was a lot of chaos, right? If there was a lot of, I'm going to give you this I'm going to give you a gift to show you my love, and then I'm going to take it away. Right. Or I'm going to tell you I love you, and then I'm going to turn around. I'm going to scold you for doing something wrong. Then what happens is that, again, all you're doing is you're recreating that dynamic in your adult relationship. So in order to break a trauma bond, we have to understand what peace and safety feels like in a relationship. We have to regulate our nervous system to that. And that can feel really foreign if chaos is all you know, and if you get a hit off of chaos in partnership.
Wow, that's such an eye opener, I believe, for so many that they think that magnetic attraction is true love, but what it is you're actually just trauma bonding, connecting to trauma bonding, right? A lot of the time, and then the chaos and causing the chaos in the relationship. So people that are in unhealthy relationships or toxic situations, what do you do with them? Like, walk us through some tangible steps that you can do if you are in a toxic situation.
Yeah. So the first thing that I would do is I would start to get really clear on the patterns that are showing up. So what I suggest is doing the inner child work first. So go back through your past relationships, look at the patterns. Right? Why did they end? Chances are 9 times out of 10 that they all ended in a similar fashion, or because there was some sort of dynamic at play. So start looking at your past relationships first. Then go into any significant traumatic instances and events that you've had in your life. Right? Anything that sticks out to you in your brain, if nothing comes forward, that's okay. Right? We're just going into what is prominent. Then take it 2 steps back from there and go and look at your childhood dynamics. How were you taught to give and receive love from your parents? And then look at your generational dynamics and really start to play. I like to call it playing detective. Like, what patterns are presenting themselves here? Did this same pattern kind of show up with my mom? Or did this same pattern kind of show up with my dad? This is also why you hire a therapist or a coach to help you dig through that to find those patterns, right? Then when you've become really clear on what that is, you're probably going to say, oh my gosh, I see this so clearly in my current relationship. This is happening. You can't unsee. And I know, Noelle, that you probably know this. When you see a pattern, you can't unsee it.
Awareness, right? Yeah.
You've woken up to it. And then what you can do is, if you're in partnership, you get to go and heal that pattern for yourself. And you get to start to regulate that. And maybe you have an open conversation with your partner. I've noticed this. I'm ready to heal this. And you have to remember, maybe they'll step up to the plate and heal as well. They may not, right? And that's not your responsibility. Your only responsibility is you in healing that.
I absolutely love that. And so let's talk at the soul level where your soul comes to experience and expand, right? So we're experiencing and we're expanding. And so I believe that our souls are mirroring other souls that are in relationships with us. And so let's talk about that, about separation anxiety when people you're expanding and others are not, and they're not working at the same level energetically for keeping up with the body and the nervous system and doing the actual healing that needs to be in the physical, right? You could spend all day, every day in meditation if you wanted to, but you actually have to live in this physical body, right? And so for you to have a healthy relationship in this physical body, you have to expand. You have to do the inner work, right? So let's talk about what happens in partnerships, relationships, even friendships or children or anything, family members, that one person is expanding and doing the inner work and working on their body, working on their mind, their soul, their spirit, and the other is trapped in the trauma or the chaos.
Yeah. So this is a hard question to answer because it's really dependent on the different scenarios that are present. But I will say this, if we go back to divine relationships, and if that truly is what you desire in your life, the cornerstone of a divine relationship is growth. So you are both dedicated and you both honor growth as sacred. It's a really strong value. So the natural part of the healing process, unfortunately, is that you outgrow people. You do. And it's hard. It's difficult because it can feel like a death of sorts. But I always explain it this way. And I feel like since we're talking about energy, this is an okay place to talk about this.
Oh yeah, very okay.
When we're talking about manifestation or when we're talking about evolution and growth, we have to decide on a new identity, right? We have to say, okay, this identity isn't serving me anymore. I want to feel into the frequency of this identity, which is not the identity that you're in right now, which is why you're doing the growth work. And if you think about if this is the identity and this is the identity where you want to go, there's a gap there. And you have to create space in order to feel into that new identity or in order to step into that new identity. So naturally, things are going to fall apart. They're going to fall away because what got you here is not going to get you there. So I think being surrendered to the falling apart process as you're in shifting frequency is so important.
So beautifully said. Like that is, I mean, I couldn't have said it better myself about energetically and what you have to do. And so let's talk about detachment in the nervous system, because that's a scary thing for somebody that is not in the healed space and ready. Like you and I do this work, right? And we're like, okay, let's go. We're going to have a new identity. Oh shit, it's scary, right? And we're like, okay, we're going to face our fear. And we understand that. But what most don't understand, and I want everybody to understand this, is that I've been doing this for 20 years. You've been doing this forever too. I have 5 different coaches. I have a spiritual coach. I have a business coach. I have people that see my blind spots and have a 360 view of my life on top of me doing this work. And so being the student and the teacher in the same breath, and being humble enough to know where we need help and support, and confident enough to know where we've mastered something. But let's talk about detachment, because that's such a big component in detachment and ego, right? And how both play a very big role in you healing. I believe, it takes a very little, like you have to shrink your ego to be in healing, because you have to take accountability for the people that you've hurt, but also hurting yourself and also putting yourself into that situation over and over again, right? So let's talk about detachment, ego, and also accountability, because that's a huge part of healing, right?
Yes, for sure. Detachment is a big one. And I'll also say part of that detachment process is understanding and being okay with the fact that it's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be uncomfortable. I have a really dear mentor of mine. Her name is Brittany Turner. She is fantastic. She actually owns an island across from Branson. And she's a fantastic human being. She's done so much beautiful stuff for the world. And she has this saying, right? And mind you, this woman sits on a board with Elon Musk and Branson, like the most powerful men in the world. And her saying is, do it, and this is a little vulgar, but do it with diarrhea. Part of the healing process and the detachment process is understanding and being okay with the fact that it's going to feel uncomfortable. The second part of that is that it can feel uncomfortable, and you can also have support while it feels uncomfortable, which is the accountability piece that you're talking about. We have become so comfortable in being uncomfortable. I know when I am uncomfortable, I'm like, man, something big's coming through on the other side of this, right?
Yeah.
So when you start to commit to healing, but if you rewind back, Noelle, and you probably think about this, I remember the first coach I ever invested in, I want to say she was maybe like $8,000. I thought that the world was ending. I'm like, there's no way.
And now you think of how much you spend now. You're like, wait, what? It's totally same.
Yeah, because I know I'm gonna get uncomfortable. If I'm not uncomfortable, it's not big enough, right? It's not going to take me where I need to go. I have to detach from that. I have to be okay being uncomfortable. So there's this centering and allowing yourself to know that, but there's also experiencing it, because you can't actually grasp it if you've never experienced being that uncomfortable and doing it with diarrhea.
Yeah. Well, I teach, I jump off cliffs for a living, and that's, so I teach using fear as a motivator, not a debilitator, and understanding that when you go through the fear and you're in the fear, that same level of, when your brain is fired up and you're completely jumping off that cliff and you're terrified, but you're going to have such a good time. It's the same exact thing in a relationship. If you're terrified and you can get through it, you can actually understand that there's something on the other end of it that you're going to manifest from it. And we can actually use fear and anger and all of the lower vibrations, incredible manifestation tools to say, okay, this is the contrast in my life. I've got to go through this. And on the other side, I know there's this, it's crazy. I'm jumping off the cliff. I'm doing something amazing from it. And I always say that right before your biggest breakthrough is there's a tower moment, which means that like your nervous system is like, wait, I'm in my zone of excellence. I'm really comfortable here. I can't go to my zone of genius, because my zone of genius is what my purpose is and I can change the world. But my zone of excellence is really, really easy and helpful. I'm super comfortable, right? So let's talk about the zone of excellence versus the zone of genius, because, I believe without question, like I went to grad school, I did everything right. I checked all the boxes, married what I thought was the perfect man, right? Beautiful father, but not my life partner. And it was really safe, right? Really, really safe. And now I'm like a quantum energy trainer. I run adventure retreats and doing crazy things and a TV host. But getting there was so hard, because it was like, wait, no, you have to leave a 6-figure job and you have to leave like everything that was supposed to be safe. And I was taught to be safe was completely foreign to my body and my subconscious and my nervous system, right?
Yes. And I would pose the question, you didn't just do all of these, you didn't wake up and decide and you just decided to do all of these things, right? You weren't jumping off cliffs and having retreats, right? It happened slowly over time, because your nervous system expanded its capacity to feel safe with doing uncomfortable things. So when we're talking in somatic terms, there's a term called the window of tolerance. And it is your window where you feel nice and comfy and juicy and safety, and you're in ventral vagal connection and everything's good, right? And then we have what we call a danger zone. And the danger zone is when you go outside of your window of tolerance and you are in full-blown activation. Now, what a lot of people don't understand is that between the window of tolerance and between the danger zone, there's this little tiny gap that we call the growth zone. And in the growth zone, you have what we call healthy activation. Healthy activation is, maybe your heart rate gets a little lifted. The great analogy for this is, imagine you're getting ready to give a speech on stage, right? And let's let's just preface by saying you don't have any trauma from giving speeches on stage, right? You're giving your first speech on stage and you feel you get a little sweaty, your heart starts to race a little bit, you start to feel a little nervous, maybe some butterflies in your tummy. But the moment you get on stage, you drop in. That is healthy activation. That is getting yourself to a place where you're not spiking into a full-blown survival response. You're not frozen. You're not in flight. You're not going to fight anybody. You're not fawning your way to the top, but you're allowing yourself to go into that growth zone. And the more that you step into that growth zone with healthy activation, the more that your resourcing and your window of tolerance expands.
I love that.
It's the same thing, right?
I absolutely love that. I have spent my life jumping out of a cliff without a parachute, and now I jump out of planes, right, for a living. But I think that probably would have been a safer way for me to go is to do that, right? So I think that's probably an incredible way to teach it. Is that you're and I call it in NLP, this, it's called chunking, right? It's like, no, you feel safe to move into this space. Okay, now you feel safe to move into this space, as opposed to just completely going into nervous system shock and going completely on the other end of it. I absolutely adore you. You are amazing. And thank you for bringing your light to where we're going to take another quick break. And then if we can come back and have some key takeaways of what people can do, that would be amazing. Just like actual physical, tangible things they can do. And then tell us everything that you're working on, because I know you're doing so much. So we'll be right back, guys. Stay tuned. Hi, guys. Welcome back. Thank you so much for being here. I am absolutely loving this show today with Lauren. She is bringing us so many golden nuggets. I recommend you guys going back and watching the show as many times as you need to understanding the nervous system and your body and healing from trauma. So, Lauren, let's talk now about what it takes to actually on a daily basis, how to do this, how to work with the nervous system on a daily basis. I know I do breath work, I do meditation, I take ice baths, like I do like crazy biohacking and mind hacking, but let's maybe some tangible things that people can do on a daily basis to one, heal and, also work with you and all that stuff, because it's incredibly important to, I believe the healing journey never ends. I believe as long as we're in Earth School, as Gary Zukav in my favorite book says, right, at the seat of the soul, that we're here to experience and we're here to expand. And there's never an end to, not the healing, you don't have to stay in the healing, but there's never an end to the expansion piece of it, right? And so what are some tangible takeaways that people can actually do on a regular basis, and just start from there?
Yeah. So always recommend working with a somatic experiencing practitioner. I really think that everyone should work with one because it will teach you the language of the nervous system. And when you're working with an SEP, I am looking at your nervous system and I am tracking if you're in an activated response, because your body is giving me all of the answers. So if you feel like you're stuck in patterns that you can't seem to break, if you've gone to a ton of therapy, or if you've done a lot of mindset work and you still feel stuck, it's probably because you're only addressing 20% of the problem, which is upstairs, and you've got to get the rest, which is the body, the 80% on board. So that's the first thing that I recommend. However, you can start somatic experiencing work on your own by starting to understand the language of the nervous system. So one of my favorite things that I teach in my practice, it's the very first thing that I teach any client that comes through, is to do what's called a somatic check-in. And a somatic check-in is just taking a moment to close your eyes, or if that feels unsafe, you can keep your eyes open, but you're just noticing the sensations and the emotions that are present in that moment. Now, here's the kicker. You're naming them. So I feel a light, warm feeling in my low belly. I feel a tingling in my fingers. I feel a tightness behind my right eye. You're just naming them, but you're not creating meaning around them, because the nervous system speaks in sensation and emotion. It doesn't speak in story and meaning. The beautiful thing is that if you start to get used to this practice, and I suggest setting a timer on your phone, morning, noon, and night, and just naming the sensations and emotions that are present when it goes off, you can start to see, oh, wow, my heart rate was really elevated and my tummy was in knots. And I was talking to my boss when the timer went off. And you can start to see where activation is present in your body, where you're having an out-of-body experience. So that would be the first step, is understanding the language of the nervous system. And then the second takeaway, I would say start building a resourcing practice for yourself, which means giving your nervous system more access to peace and safety. Breath work is amazing. Yoga is amazing. Anything that helps you find that sense of calm is going to expand your nervous system's capacity to find ventral vagal connection. So make it a point to do it every day.
I absolutely love that. And so let's talk about the ego or the subconscious and the nervous system and working together hand in hand. I know you've done NLP work as well. So the mind body and the mental body and the physical body and connecting all of those and the importance of that, because understanding the emotions that are behind the feelings as well.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it all works together. Right? We think about the way that our body is structured. And unfortunately, there's so many people out there that they're stuck in the mindset work.
Okay.
And they can be sitting here and telling me that someone is toxic for them. And they know that they shouldn't ever see them again because they exude this pattern that they uncovered. But if they just know, and they haven't done the work to understand how it shows up in the body, and how the dysregulation is keeping them from being able to heal, then guess what? Friday night rolls around, they're lonely. Next thing I know, I get a call from them on Saturday that they woke up in his or her bed. Wow. That's why it's so important that you look at, yes, I know you've done the mindset work and you can name it, but you've got to work on the body and the spiritual side, and healing those two things in conjunction with the mind, so that you don't continue to repeat those patterns. They all have to come online together.
And what does it look like when you have a healed nervous system?
It feels like home.
I love this. I love that so much. You just made me so happy.
You can be, it's presence. It's true presence. When someone is in a regulated state, or when you're with someone that feels completely like they're in ventral vagal connection, they feel like home and they feel safe. And that's what it should feel like. Relationships should feel safe.
I absolutely love that. So tell us what some success stories that you've had, and some things that you do when in your coaching programs, because I know you have courses and you have programs and retreats, and I know that they are life-changing. Like I know that you've changed massive lives, and thank you for being such a light in this world. But let's talk about like what is at the other end of the healing of the trauma.
So one of my favorite stories actually ties into the bio that you spoke to earlier. And the piece around every sale that comes through my business, 6% of it goes towards building a school in Honduras for underprivileged children. But the beautiful part about this story is that the woman who owns the foundation, which is called the Boundless Foundation, her name is Shannon Rizzo. She was a client of mine, and she came to me, probably about 2 years ago. And she was in this relationship that was just sucking her dry, and she couldn't figure out how to get out of it. And so through working together, through getting her through understanding what her dysregulated patterns were, going through what I talked about earlier, going back through her past relationships, her generational healing, her childhood conditioning, all of that, and then doing the somatic experiencing work, the result of it was that she ended up finding a divine king before we were even done working with one another. Happy to report that they are married. And they had children together, which has been really beautiful. But what I love about this story, even more than the fact that she found her divine king, is that she also tapped back into her purpose, which was, I want to spread my mission to these children in Honduras,
Mm.
to build these schools. And so now I believe she's working on her 6th school.
Yay. Oh my gosh. I love that so much.
So it's this work. How you do one thing is how you do everything.
Mm.
This work of really healing the nervous system tends to be the missing piece for people.
I love that. And I love that you tied it into purpose, because I believe it's not just about the physical body. I believe that you're here on purpose for purpose, right? And I believe with ounce of my being that every soul has some gift inside of them that they're supposed to bring out to the world. And when you're coming from a healthy space, a divine space, a space that is not in trauma, you can actually and I believe it's a disservice to your family, your relationships, everybody in your life if you're not doing some sort of healing in some way. So where can people find you? I mean, what are you working on right now? Because I know you have retreats, you have events, you have and how can people just be in your orb? And if you're not in her orb, get in her orb, guys, because she will change your life, literally.
So there are several ways that you can work with me. My signature program is called the Aligned Love Collective, and it is a group coaching program. We run cohorts that begin every month. So if you're ready to dive into this work, by all means, reach out. We'll get you into a cohort. It will change your life. This is the same program that I was just talking about that Shannon went through. I right now am not working with clients one-on-one because I am, but my calendar is packed out at least through mid-year next year because I am writing a book. So my book is coming out at the beginning of next year. So keep an eye out for that. But I have coaches that work underneath my methodology. We have plenty of space to hold you in your healing. I still show up every month and coach you, regardless of whether you're in the group program or not. So reach out to me. You can find me on laurenzoeller.com. You can find me on Instagram at Lauren Zoeller and on TikTok at Coach Lauren Zoeller.
And I'll link all of that after the show. So tell us your biggest healing moment and what sets your soul on fire.
Oh my goodness. My biggest healing moment was finding somatic experiencing. And diving in with my first somatic experiencing practitioner. It changed my whole life.
What did that do for you?
So without diving really deep into my story, I was at a time where I had my coaching practice and I was doing all this mindset work. And I was dating a man at the time who was an alcoholic. Nobody knew. He hid it very well. My business was $30,000 in debt. And I had a cancer scare.
Wow.
And it all came crashing down. I received all 3 phone calls that my boyfriend was going to rehab for the 6th time in 1 year. My accountant called to let me know that we were $30,000 in the red. And my doctor called to tell me that I had potential cancer. It happened all in 24 hours. Right. And I was a full-blown coach doing NLP and mindset work at this point. And so I knew in that moment, something wasn't matching up. Right. So that's when I found somatic experiencing and started to get my nervous system on board. And through that process, on the other side of it, I ended up finding a beautiful aligned partnership that was healthy, the first healthy partnership that I'd had in my whole life. I went from $30,000 in debt to making $30,000 in 1 month. And I healed my cancer scare.
Amazing. That is all amazing. And that is truly, and that's just not woo-woo, guys. That is 100% your body is science. And when you understand that when you heal your body and your mental body, your physical body, you're actually healing your spiritual body and you're connecting yourself. And now from that space, you're living your purpose and you're doing like amazing, beautiful things in this world. So thank you so much. You are such a light in this world, Lauren, and don't ever not for a second know how powerful you are in the work that you're doing. And I just want to honor you for that because it's such a beautiful gift when you have a healer at your level that has the knowledge at your level. It's truly a gift to the world. So thank you for that.
Thank you so much. I received that fully.
So tell us what sets your soul on fire.
Oh my goodness. Healing the world.
Yay. Me too.
Healing the world. I want every single human on this planet to have access to this work. And I just want to pour into everybody that's ready. So that is what sets me on fire. I could do it all day long. I never get it.
And what do you have coming up?
Well, the book is coming up. And I'm just wrapping up tonight. I'm doing a Manifest Your Dream Relationship 4-day workshop. So that is getting ready to wrap up. But I'm getting ready to travel for the holidays.
Yay.
So excited. If you want to come hear me speak, the next big event that I'm doing is I'm speaking at Ken Jocelyn's Grow Stack Drive event in Atlanta in January. And tickets are now available for it. So you can come there and see me in person.
I'm very familiar with Ken, very dear friend of mine.
Good. No way.
Yeah.
Well,
So got emotional on that one. Well, you are beautiful and you are amazing. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being your light, and anything that I can support you. How can I support you in your cause of everything in Honduras? Because that's, how can we support that?
So you can actually visit the link on my website or on my Instagram. I think it's also on TikTok too, and you can just donate. Every single penny counts. And, or if you decide that anybody wants to go through the healing process through the collective or through working with one of my coaches one-on-one, 6% of that sale goes towards the Boundless Foundation. So please, by all means, we will take any penny. It all counts.
Wow, I love that. Well, again, thank you for being here. Thank you. If you want to hang around for like 5 minutes, just let me close out, and then I'll talk to you backstage. But you are welcome anytime on this show, any event that I have. You are welcome to speak, and I support your work 1,000%. You're a beautiful light. Just keep shining and keep changing lives.
I feel the same about you, Noelle. Thank you so much.
Have a great day. Thanks for being on, Lauren.
Thank you.
Wow, what a powerful show, guys. Oh, my breath is taken away. I absolutely love, you guys know that I absolutely embrace the healing journey. It is so important to understand that there is a better version of you waiting to come out. The version of you that has purpose in this world, and everything that you have ever gone through in your life, through your pain, is always your purpose. And if you understand that you can get through the trauma, and on the other side of that trauma is your gifts to the world, and you are doing a disservice to your family, to yourself, to God, and the universe if you do not rise to the highest version of yourself. And I promise you guys, when you start to tap in and do the healing work and understand your true power, all of the power is within you. You have a gift inside of you. You are more powerful than you will ever know. And I promise you guys, when you start to tap into the healing journey, and you become the greatest version of you, and you bring that version of you out to the world, your life will change on a daily basis. I love you guys, and I am so grateful for being here. Thank you so much for all that you do, and thank you for bringing you to the world, because the world needs you more than ever. Be you, be dynamite. Go out there and crush today. Go out there and be the best version of you, because the world needs you more than ever. See you in the next video, guys.